Hey guys, Metal Jesus here. Now recently I dug out of storage a bunch of my music DVDs because I want to be able to play those in my game room. However, imagine my surprise when a couple of my DVDs were no longer working. They're older, I get it, that happens, right? So I go on Amazon to buy a new copy of it, and I was shocked to learn that some of these are very collectible now. You can pay $30, $40, $60, $100 depending on how rare they are. I had no idea because, you know, typically Hollywood movie DVDs are practically worthless. You can get most movies for like $1 to $5 on DVD. But for some reason, music DVDs have held their value and in many cases gone up. So in this video, I'm going to show you some of my collection here, as well as point out some of the ones that are more collectible. Let's take a look. I'm going to go mostly in alphabetical order, starting with AC/DC live at Donington. Now, AC/DC obviously are known as a great live band. I could have picked a ton of these, but this one recorded in 1991 when they headlined the Monsters of Rock tour. And dude, I completely forgot that AC/DC did this because check out these opening bands: Metallica, Motley Crue, Queensryche, and the Black Crowes. But this is such a great live performance. It was shot on film, it looks fantastic, it sounds fantastic, and they open it with Thunderstruck, and it just goes from there. It's like a frickin' rocket. This is such a great live DVD. Some of you might be surprised that I am into the Beatles. That's because growing up, the Abbey Road album was a huge influence on me, and it still is today. I think the later Beatles albums are amazing, and the anthology is somewhat collectible. This thing goes for about 40 bucks, and the reason for that is because I believe it's one of the first times that they went into the archives and really dug into their history in a way that they hadn't up to at that point. So these 5 DVDs are an amazing snapshot into what it was like to be a Beatle, write those songs, write those albums, and just the history of it. It's a fantastic collection. One of my favorite albums in high school was Def Leppard's Hysteria, and this is a great little DVD where they talk about the making of it. And this is such a sonically interesting album. It's cool to go back and just kind of hear how they made those songs. I also have this DVD collection. These were originally VHSs that they put out, that they put on DVD. So it has Historia, which is their history as well as all of their music videos up that point. And then also In the Round In Your Face, which was their live tour back then. Not very good, actually. If you're looking for a good Def Leppard live performance, then I recommend you check out Viva Hysteria. This is whenever they had a residency in Las Vegas for, I believe, a week or two. They played the Hysteria album in its entirety, which is good. But the real gem of this DVD collection here is that there's bonus features where they perform as Dead Flatbird. They did it twice. Now what that means is that Def Leppard, get this, Def Leppard pretended to be a Def Leppard cover band. So they opened for themselves. They had different costumes on and everything. And the brilliance is they performed B-sides and rare Def Leppard songs that they normally never play. So if you're a big Def Leppard fan like me, and you like some of those early albums, or maybe some of those B-cuts, like say Wasted, or Rock Brigade, or Action, or Promises, they just go deep into their catalog. So it's such a great performance if you're a hardcore Def Leppard fan like me. Here's something I don't talk about a lot, but I am really into the band Dead Can Dance, and they are a 4AD band. And they're unlike anything else in my collection. They're really hard to describe, actually. They are tribal, they're Middle Eastern, they're... Man, I don't even know how to describe these guys. It's just amazing musicianship, and it's all over the place. Lisa Gerrard is an amazing vocalist, and this is a really great performance. If you're looking for something a little bit different, check out Dead Can Dance. Obviously, you guys know that I love the band Dream Theater, and one of the things that they're known for is amazing live performances, which is saying a lot because their music is very complex. They're probably the premier progressive rock band out there. I mean, they're the gold standard, and so having their Metropolis 2000, which is Scenes from New York, performed in its entirety, that's an amazing live album, as well as this compilation here of an earlier performance. This is Live in Tokyo, and then also another VHS that they put out, all packed onto one DVD. And Dream Theater is one of those bands that put out a lot of live albums. Typically their cycle is they put out a studio album and then they put out a live album. Studio album, live album. They're very much like Rush in that regard. So I also have Live at Budokan here, as well as Score, which was the 20th anniversary world tour. And I have to say, that's not one of my favorites. I don't know why. I mean, you know, Dream Theater, they don't make bad live albums, but I'm just saying, it's like, as far as live albums go, that's not one of my favorites. However, Live at Budokan is, and so when it came out on Blu-ray, of course I had to snag that. And then more recently, they put out Live at Luna Park, and that's a really good performance as well. And what I like about Dream Theater is that every single one of these is a little bit different, so they complement each other very well. And then to round out my live Dream Theater, quote unquote, this is a really interesting one. This is Mike Portnoy's Liquid Drum Theater. What this is a drum tutorial. And you know, I'm a casual drummer. However, I love watching him play these songs and break them down because he's covering Liquid Tension Experiment and Dream Theater songs. It's great viewing. Here's a live album that was a bit of a surprise, and I wanted to show it in here. This is Sammy Hagar and the Wabos Living It Up in St. Louis. For some reason, this will set you back about $40 to $100. I was really surprised to see that. Now, that's typically for a new copy of it, and the only thing I can think of is that it's just because it's so good. I mean, this is an amazing live performance by Sammy Hagar and his band. They are on fire the entire time. And so if you're into Sammy Hagar and you like this classic rock, this is such a great live performance. Oh boy. All right. We're gonna get into my my high school years again. I bought Kiss Exposed back when it came out on VHS, and I swear I wore this thing out. I was such a Kiss nerd, and this was such a fun, well, at the time it was a VHS, because it covered their history, which I was just learning about, and it had 80s in there. Now, going back today, you realize just how incredibly cheesy this is. I mean, they actually tried to quote-unquote act, and it's bad. It's so bad. But you know what? I can actually quote it. That's how much I watched it, and you know, I love it. So it's not for everybody. But Kiss are the ultimate merchandisers, and so of course they have a bunch of Blu-rays and DVDs. And this is a good one. This is a compilation, a double feature of Confidential as well as Extreme Close-Up, and this covers mostly the stuff after the previous DVDs. So this is getting into the late 80s as well as the early 90s, and it's a cool collection. I also picked up Kiss Symphony. Ugh. This was back whenever a lot of rock bands were performing with full symphonies, and that was kind of the cool thing to do. And you know, Metallica did it. And honestly, I can't stand this, so I'm not gonna dwell on it. I just want to point out that I do have it in the collection. However, this is very cool. This is the Kissology Volume 1, and Kiss started to go back into their early vault and archives and really pull out some performances on television, live performances, full concerts, interviews. These are fantastic. And being Kiss, they know how to merchandise, and so these were packed full of really cool stuff. You see here that it's 2 DVDs. However, the first edition came with a bonus disc of a full concert, which is pretty cool, and some little collectible backstage pass things there. However, Kissology Volume 2 is where things get really interesting because it goes from 1978 to 1991. And the reason why I bought this, I'll be quite honest, is because it included for the first time on essentially an HD format, and that is Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. That was a Hanna-Barbera television show that they put out on TV, and it's absolutely horrible. It's terrible. But again, as a kid, I loved it. And just like the other one, it comes with a bonus DVD, this time of a Crazy Nights tour in 1998, which is an era that not everyone is crazy about, but I kind of dig it. Moving on to the M's, this is Megadeth, Rust in Peace Live. And this was given to me by a friend, and I didn't actually know very much of this album, and so when I got it, I kind of put it on the shelf for a while, and then later on I started going back into the Megadeth catalog and started watching this, and this is fantastic. I was an idiot to wait so long to watch this, because now I watch this and I'm like, oh my god, it's like amazing from beginning to end, because they play the entire album, Rust in Peace, but then also they have the bonus performances of some of their biggest hits. If actually Megadeth has hits. I guess they do. Skin of My Teeth and Peace Cells and Symphony of Destruction. It's a great live performance. This is kind of a weird one. This is Metallica, Cunning Stunts. You have to say that very carefully, otherwise you can get in trouble. But this was a really weird release, because it's, well, weird in the way that it was packaged. Now, it's actually an amazing performance. They're in Texas. I believe, I don't think they called this in the round, but they were in the center of the auditorium. They had this really advanced sound system where basically you couldn't have a bad seat in the house. And this is such a great set list, but this version of it is a little bit collectible. They actually put out a second version that is a little bit more common. A fairly recent pickup for me is this Blu-ray. This is the Big Four. This is when the Big Four thrash bands in the world did a tour, and again, what an amazing performance when you have Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax. My god. I wish I would have seen this in person. Next up are a couple DVDs that are not live performances. These are actually music videos, but they're compilations that I kind of want to show here. The first one is Monsters of Death, and it's just a bunch of death metal bands packed onto 2 DVDs. There's so much music here. And the second one I have is Monsters of Metal. This is volume 6. And again, I just want to mention these because I think they're pretty cool. What I do with these is I put them on in the background, and if I'm shooting video or messing around in the game room, these are really cool collections of music videos that frankly you just normally don't see. I'd love to get the other volumes, but I rarely come across them. Opeth is a band that I am super passionate about, especially that early to mid 2000s when they released Blackwater Park, Deliverance, and Damnation. And this is a great live album because they play songs from all of those. I mean, they basically play the entire Damnation album, which is pretty killer. And then later on, they released another live album, which is pretty cool too. These guys are great in concert. This is the Roundhouse in London, and it's just another vibe. It's a little bit older. They cover a lot of Ghost Reveries in here. Fantastic live band. I've seen these guys live and do not disappoint. Here's a new progressive rock band, well, new-ish progressive rock band that I'm really into, and that is Porcupine Tree. Now, think of them as more in the vein of, say, Pink Floyd. They're a little bit heavier than that, but they're very much like that Pink Floyd style. And this is a great live performance here. A great starting point if you want to get in and just see what these guys are about. This is recorded extremely well and also edited very well. Lots of great songs in here, but I wanted to highlight this because it has a second DVD with this one particular song on it. It's called the Cymbal Song. And what they did was a performance of just jamming on cymbals. We're talking about the cymbals around a drum set in full surround sound. And it's a mind-blowing experience if you have that set up. You definitely have to check it out. Prince is known for his amazing live performances, and this is one of the best ones. This was a video that he shot, a live performance that he shot, and was released on New Year's Eve, 1999, going into the new millennium. And it's a mind blower. He plays 23 songs. He invites Lenny Kravitz as well as Morris Day and the Time, and a bunch of different people like that onto stage to jam with him, to perform these songs. It is, I watched this the other night and I had goosebumps. I've watched this so many times. If you are a musician and you are thinking about performing live, or you want to see how to do it correctly, you watch this for inspiration. It's amazing. And speaking of great live bands, well, few are better than classic Queen. And I got this Blu-ray because I wanted to watch some classic Queen live in concert, but more specifically, it has the Live Aid performance on here, and oh my God. Whew. Queen destroyed at Live Aid. They were amazing. Here is Rammstein live in Berlin. This was captured at a time when their popularity was really peaking. They had just put out that album, I forget what it's called, but it had Du Hast on it. Du Hast. And so I picked it up, soon after that, and I was really big into Rammstein at the time. I still dig him quite a bit. This is a great performance, captured in an amazing auditorium with just tons of people. I mean, it's really cool to watch because I think Rammstein is relatively unknown here, but to watch them in this environment it's epic. Here is a band that not a lot of North American people might be familiar with. They're called the Tea Party, and no, they're not named after the political movement. They're from Canada, and they basically are a mix of Led Zeppelin, The Doors, and Nine Inch Nails. And if that sounds intriguing to you, you should definitely check out some of their music, because I was really big into these guys in the 90s. They blew me away, and I've had this collection here for quite a while. This is all their music videos. I don't have any of their live performances, but I've seen them live a bunch of times. And again, a mix of classic rock and also industrial electronic music. Pretty cool stuff. Here is a progressive rock band that doesn't get a lot of attention these days. I don't even think that they are still really around. It was a supergroup created by Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater, and this is a live performance, 2 DVDs, fantastic stuff. This is very classic Genesis Yes style progressive rock. If that's your thing, you should definitely check this out. What I like about this collection here, though, is that the second disc has an entire performance of Shine On You Crazy Diamond. They do it live at the NAMM show, and they nail it. It's really cool to watch. In the 90s, I was really big into the band Ween. I kind of feel like they're a little bit forgotten these days. They had an album called Chocolate and Cheese, The Mollusk. Oh man, they had so many great albums. And this is a live performance in Chicago, and they were known for amazing just electrifying gigs. And I've seen them a number of times, and each time it's completely different. They're one of those bands, when they perform, it feels like they're slightly out of control. And that is a really fun thing to go and see. And so they captured that in this. This is actually a mix of a live DVD and also a CD, which is kind of neat. David Coverdale and his band Whitesnake have been performing for, well, literally decades at this point, because he started in Deep Purple. And this, I think, is probably their best live performance. It's live in the still of the night, and the band that he has surrounding him here is just on fire. And also, too, I really feel like this is a great moment in time for him, because he feels re-energized here. The band is just firing on all cylinders. This is a really powerful live performance. If you like classic Whitesnake and that blues rock, you should definitely check this out. Now, here is one of the rarest DVDs in my collection, and I was really surprised to learn this, although looking back, now I can kind of understand. That is Winger live, and man, look at that cover. That cover is crap. But the performance on this is amazing. I don't care what you think about Winger. I don't care if you don't even think about Winger, if you just don't even know who they are. But if you like that 80s hard rock, hair metal, this performance here is legendary. It's a great performance, and I think it's because of that reason that, Winger, when they put this out, maybe they weren't that popular, but if you're a fan, you really want this, and this can go for over $100, because I think that they did a low print of it, and it's hard to find now. So really happy to have this in my collection. All right, well, that's a quick look at some of the music DVDs and Blu-rays that I have in my collection. And as you can see, I like a variety of styles and genres. And going through this process of digging them out and watching them again for the first time, in some of these in a decade, kind of got me thinking as to why they might be collectible. And I think the answer is this, is that yes, the visuals on a DVD can't match a modern Blu-ray, but often the audio and the music can. The audio is often better than CD, and it's in surround sound, and it still sounds fantastic on a modern system. That's been my experience going back and watching these. And if you're into a certain band like Dream Theater or, you know, Kiss, well, you're going to be perfectly happy getting that on DVD, even though it's not out on Blu-ray. I'd love to know if you guys collect these as well. I know a lot of music fans watch my channel. Love to know down in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing, and take care. You know, I have something to confess, and that is I was a little apprehensive in showing a Winger DVD in my video because in some circles, Winger is not considered cool at all. They used to be the butt of the joke on Beavis and Butthead. But the truth is, over time, actually, I've learned to appreciate them. I mean, they're just as good as every other 80s hair metal band at the time, so I thought, what the hell, you know? What do I care what people think?